Hello, everyone. Thank you for joining us. Um, as our title says, we are talking about the Pakistani government deportation of refugees from Afghanistan, refugees from Pakistan. We have distinguished guests here. We have Maisam Iltaf, who has worked as a journalist and activist. He has written extensively on issues of migration, ethnicity, and radicalizations for the website like Geopolitics, Global Voices, and The Diplomat. He is currently working with Kabul now. We also have with us Zaman Sultani. He is a South Asian researcher with the Amnesty International. Previously, he has worked as advisor to EU delegation to Afghanistan. He has also worked with Human Rights Watch and AREU in Afghanistan. We also have Moniza Kakar. She is a lawyer and human rights defender. She is a member of the Joint Action Committee for Refugees in Pakistan. She has represented Afghanistan's refugees in court in Pakistan, and she is very active on the refugee issues. As you all know, that the Pakistani government has initiated a policy of deporting refugees from Pakistan. The number of those refugees, which the Pakistan government call them undocumented, might be around 1.5 million or more. These refugees are from various backgrounds, and they have been to Pakistan in different period of time. There are people who have been there for 40 years, 30 years, and there are also people who left for Pakistan post 2021 when the Republic government collapsed in Afghanistan to the hands of the Taliban. Among those who may be deported back to Afghanistan are people who have worked with the previous government as a soldier, as a public service employee, and as human rights activist and women rights activists, which is very concerning. It is one question which I would like to pose at the beginning, and it's actually the main question: why Pakistani government decided to do this at this time. There are various explanations which are forwarded. I will list a couple of them, and then our guests could talk about them. One question maybe it is that they are trying to link between the Afghanistan migrants who are in Pakistan and the rising terrorist attacks in Pakistan by TTP and other terrorist organizations. That's one of the claims which the Pakistan government has put forward. Another claim could be that actually the Pakistan government is saying that these migrants and refugees, they are taking advantage of our welfare system and all that we offer as social services, which is, to my mind, it is not very good argument, because it's to me it seems like a policy of scapegoating migrants and refugees. As I have myself have lived in Pakistan, in Peshawar, like for a short period of 3 months, and I saw that refugees and migrants do not receive much of welfare from Pakistani government. So, which is, to me, it seems like the current economic crisis in Pakistan, maybe it's like just to shift the blame to the migrants, and then putting the responsibility on the migrants, and then getting away with that. by Pakistani government. Maybe that's to my mind it seems, but anyway, it is very disheartening because uh, suddenly take the decision of uh, pushing out more than 1 million people from their homes and from their social environment. Some of those migrants, they have been born there. They might be even foreign to to Afghanistan, because they have grew there, they have born there, they have been raised there. So that is, for them, it's quite disheartening. This our uh, initial comment, and then we will pass now to Maisam Iltaf, who is on the ground, and we would like him to share with us his observation and also experience, and he has written extensively on this issue. Maisam, please.
Thank you, Dr. Seerat Aziz. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you, Maisam.
Okay, thank you. So the question of why is, I think, very complex and at the same time multifaceted. But what we can understand, given the recent crackdowns on the refugees that culminated in the forced deportation scheme, which you mentioned, its background, two things are very important here. First is the timing, and second is the speed and scale of it. I think the timing of it could be due to the security measures, the security pretext that Pakistan has for long blamed the Afghan Taliban for not reining in on the TTP, on the Tehrik-i-Taliban Pakistan militants, which has since the fall of Afghanistan to the Taliban wreaked havoc in Pakistan. So we have statistics which clearly indicate that attacks have multi-manifolded, and August this year particularly has been the deadliest since November 2014, where nearly 100 terror attacks had been carried out across Pakistan, with many civilian and particularly security forces casualties. So to understand this, we need to understand that what has Islamabad's position been. Islamabad, according to me, has used several pressure tactics on the Taliban in order to somehow persuade them to curb the TTP militants and stop harboring them inside Afghanistan, which Islamabad, which Kabul denies, the Taliban in Kabul denies, and has shown no sign of any willingness to go and curb the TTP hideouts inside Afghanistan. And this has taken the nerve of Islamabad, which has then come up with this mass deportation scheme. And this mass deportation scheme does not come out of nowhere. We have seen previously earlier crackdowns too. For example, that specifically the recent border tensions and the TTP attacks across Pakistan, specifically the same day that the border tensions occurred in Chitral. So this is one pretext, which pertains to the security one. And then we also have other reasons for that, specifically given that why at this particular time the Pakistan has decided, I mean, the caretaker government has decided to go with the deportation scheme. And there could be multiple reasons for that. The most important one, I think, is that because the caretaker government could not face a kind of backlash if the decision was taken from a elected civilian government. And many have also challenged the the scope of responsibility or the authority of the caretaker government, whether or if it is mandated to take such long-term policies. But of course, unless there is not a backing from the military establishment, the caretaker government could not have been able to implement or enforce such a very important and a country-wide mass deportation scheme. So I will stop here. And in short, I would say that the security pretext is very important to measure here, and also the timing of it, and where does it come from? It comes from a caretaker government.
Yes, thank you. And what would be your view on the economic side of this debate, that Afghanistan's originated migrants and refugees, they are stifling Pakistanis' welfare and their mm, uh, help and whatever social services which they are offering. So, because to my mind, it is not making sense. Lots of those refugees and migrants who are in Pakistan, they have friends and family members outside of Pakistan who are sending money and assistance to them. Also, following the collapse of government in Kabul in 2021, lots of people who are well off in Afghanistan, they moved to Pakistan for various reasons. For one, they were part of the previous government. Second, they wanted to save their businesses because the economy was collapsing in Afghanistan. Another reason might be that many well-off family, they moved to Pakistan because so that their girls and female students could go to school and university. So, would you care to talk about the economic side of Pakistan's government argument on this issue?
I mean, the economic perspective is also one reason, one factor it could be, but I don't think that that's very important. Rather than the security one and the timing of one, and the way that it comes from a caretaker government, not an elected civilian government. Because to me, it seems that Pakistan is using the mass deportation of refugees as a pressure tactic on the Taliban, which has asked the Pakistan to rethink its unacceptable move.
This space was downloaded via spacesdown.com. Visit to download your spaces today.
Which in itself is also a debate to talk about. And the timing of it, as I mentioned earlier, stems from Islamabad's mounting resentment against the ruling authorities in Kabul because of its reluctance to rein in TTP militants inside, which are being harbored inside Afghanistan. And then the reasons that you mentioned, I think, on a larger scale, they come. I see them under the implications, the repercussions, how the massive deportation scheme could impact these refugees, and then we could talk on later on that how are they impacting these refugees on individual, on family, and in community levels across broad spectrum, be it the violation of the fundamental human rights law, fundamental human rights, be it the socio-economic implications, and the larger geopolitical consequences.
Thank you. And your emphasis on the issue of using refugees and migrants as political means to compel the Taliban, what the Pakistani government wants them to do. It's very interesting because earlier during the previous government, it was the Pakistani government who was the staunch supporter of the Taliban. So, and now they are having this issue. Thank you for that. You ended up with the human uh, rights of and human values and human suffering of. So let's move to our next speaker, Zaman Sultani, who has worked with human rights organizations and with Amnesty International to take on this side of this whole crisis. Can you hear us, Sultani?
Yes, I can hear you. Do you hear me?
Yes, please go on.
Yeah, okay. Hi, hope all is well. Unfortunately, for decades, Afghan refugees have been used as a pawns by the regional countries that include Pakistan. So this is the unfortunate situations of Afghans who fled violence, who fled persecutions in their home country in seek of protections, but they have been used, as a political pawn from one hand, and at the same time they have been constantly facing challenges, problem, and realize access to healthcare, access to education, and at the same time facing arbitrary arrests, forced deportations, or and pushbacks in particular. This is what we have been seeing, we have been noticing, and we have been documenting about the situation of Afghan refugees from across the regions from across the regions, which includes Iran, which includes Pakistan, and Turkey in particular. But under these difficult situations, I just want to highlight a few things. Though some argue that Pakistan is not a member state to the Refugee Convention. But so after the collapse of the former government in 2021, UNHCR requested a non-return of Afghan refugees from all countries due to a security problem or possibility that they would face persecution in Afghanistan. So this call from UNHCR, or UNHCR has been repeating these calls over the past year since the Taliban has taken over. This is one thing that this is happening despite the call from UNHCR and UN, and so as many other international and human rights organizations. The second thing that I wanted to highlight is non-refoulement is a customary international law, no matter if you are a member of a conventions or not. So it is important to be observed, and it is obligated that you should not send anyone to where that there is a possibility he would face human rights violations or persecutions, he or she. This is the second thing that is being violated with the current mass deportations. And thirdly, Pakistan is also signatory to the conventions on against torture and also to the civil and political rights. though they are not specifically about refugee, but they definitely, prevent deportation, sending people to situations where where their human rights or where they will be facing challenges. Unfortunately, despite all this, what we see, so there is a continued mass arbitrary arrest of Afghan refugees from across Pakistan, and they are being deported without any due process. So they are kept in transit or detention facilities, centers. We see families are getting apart. We just issued extended press today on the situations, and those who are being arrested, they don't access a fair trial. They don't access defense attorney, and also media access or access to these facilities are not possible. So these are the challenges that is currently happening in Pakistan. On top of this, one another point is important is we have the university or call, but at the same time, many people have fled Pakistan after the Taliban took over, and many of these people are former government officials. Many of them are journalists. Many of them are human rights activists. Many of them are politicians or like activists and activists or critical voices. And they are also facing the same situations in terms of deportations. And with regard to their situations, so there are like well-documented report from Amnesty International and also from UNOMA and many others that the Taliban have been targeting, former government employees. They have been arbitrarily arresting or forcibly disappearing and torturing critical voices, including journalists, human rights defenders. And only until June, within I think almost like less than 2 years, so UNOMA had documented 218 former government officials were extrajudicially killed. But despite these situations, those who fled are being rounded up, being arbitrarily arrested, and then deported back to Afghanistan. And in addition to the security, there is another issue that we have to be cautious or take note of it in Afghanistan is Afghanistan under the Taliban is facing a humanitarian crisis. And these humanitarian crises, it's not mainly, the situation was not better before the Taliban either, but the Taliban took over has exacerbated the situations or made it much worse. With Afghanistan facing, state lead sanctions or sanctions by the states, financial sanctions. Development assistance are not coming to Afghanistan, and humanitarian assistance. In more and more people are becoming dependent on humanitarian assistance. Only from last year from last August to August this year, the number of people who would need humanitarian assistance moved from 18 million to 29 million. It is like almost 3/4 of the whole country's population. And this situation is unfortunately not getting better. It is getting worse and worse. And those who are facing humanitarian situations, those who are facing poverty, it is over 97% of the whole population. So, on top of the security, you have these humanitarian situations or the worsening humanitarian crisis in Afghanistan. And according to the figures from the UN humanitarian response plan has only been funded 34%. So you have a humanitarian crisis, and at the same time, you don't have enough fund to address it. And there were multiple reports from different UN organizations that they were saying that they don't have fund to operate. And unfortunately, these deportations or mass deportations is happening ahead of winter, which is like another difficulty to another suffering to what Afghans are already facing. So yeah, so these are all the challenges that is happening currently, unfortunately. Despite calls, we see refugees are all rounded up and large groups, and then they are deported, and they don't have access to their right to defense attorney, to a fair trial, or to at least challenge their deportations. Yeah, I'll stop here. Thank you.
Thank you, Sultani Sep. Before moving to our next guest, I would like to ask you on another speculation which people are making on the ground. There are some people who say that Pakistan is doing this mass deportation in order to receive monetary fund from international organizations. Like we will host the refugees and the migrants, but you have to pay us this amount of money. So what is your view on this, and whether it is an option for the, let's say, UNHCR, Amnesty International, or other international organizations who are involved on refugee issues? That's one thing. Another question is that international organizations like UNHCR and Amnesty International and other human rights organizations, what they could do apart or beside issuing statements and condemnations or asking the Pakistani governments not to do that. Is there other mechanism of let's say convincing Pakistani government to abandon this decision?
Yeah, thank you for this question. I just, on top of the challenges that I have discussed, but at the same time, it is definitely to appreciate, the people of Pakistan, or the government of Pakistan, so as the others who hosted Afghan refugees for decades. That's important to acknowledge. At the same time, that we are talking at the same time that we are exposing what the Afghan refugees have been going through and they are going through. So that's important to acknowledge, but hosting that so should not lead. I hope it should not have led to this situation, but unfortunately it has, and we hope this deportation is stopped immediately. With regard to support to the government of Pakistan, I mean, I definitely cannot comment if this deportation is linked to that. But what I can definitely say is we have been calling for additional support to the government of Pakistan for hosting Afghan refugees. There was support in the past, and we have been calling, and we still call for additional support to the government of Pakistan for hosting Afghan refugees. So I think that is important. If there is assistance and if there is fund and given or delivered for hosting or for hosting, and at the same time, helping Afghan refugees to realize their rights in Pakistan. So that's what we have been doing. And with what Amnesty could do, so Amnesty is a human rights organization that is mainly documenting, reporting, and at the same time campaigning for human rights, documenting, reporting human rights violations, and at the same time, campaigning for addressing or at the same or accountability on that. So we have been documenting the situation of Afghan refugees, and we have been talking about it since last year. We have had communicated to the government of Pakistan through different authorities, and we have also been sharing, and we have also been producing report of what the Afghan refugees are going through in Pakistan. Yeah, and definitely there is a need for more call, and that call should come from the UN and also the wider global community on the Pakistan to stop deportations of Afghan refugees back to Afghanistan. This is important. That these calls comes from collectively from a global community in order this process to be stopped. Yeah, thank you.
Thank you, Sultani Saib. Now we are moving to Moniza Kakar. She is a lawyer and activist in Pakistan. Please talk about your activities and other observations that you have. Also, if you are answering the following question, that what are the legal mechanisms and means activists and lawyers, refugee lawyers have in Pakistan, which they could use, they could apply to fight back. What are the internal or national Pakistani legal system, and are there any mechanism that could help others to help the refugees?
Hello everyone. Thank you for having me. Actually, I was excited when I saw the panelist list. First of all, I just want to express my solidarity with my Afghan brothers and sisters facing this forced deportation and harassment. It is a crucial time for this panel discussion on the forced deportation of Afghan refugees, I think. I have been working on Afghan refugees cases since July 2022, but the recent wave of arrest and harassment of Afghan refugees by the police here in Karachi and all over Pakistan is the worst yet. Unfortunately, Pakistan lacks a refugee law. We don't have any refugee law, and we are also not the signatory body of the 1951 Refugee Convention. The way the police are arresting and harassing Afghan refugees is inhuman. I frequently visit Afghan refugee camps here in Karachi and have received hundreds of complaints about the police inhuman behavior with the Afghan refugees. They are conducting midnight raids on refugees' homes, demanding large sums from them. Pakistan is claiming that they are only arresting the illegal ones and the undocumented ones, but in actually, since 9th of September, the recent wave of the arrest and harassment of Afghan refugees, uh, uh, before 1st of November, the procedure was changed. Firstly, they have to lodge the FIR, and then they had to produce them before the court. And after the court trial, were deporting them. But after the 1st of November, they changed the procedure, and now they are just picking up the Afghan refugees from their home, from the markets and the factories where they are working, and ship them to the detention center, which they are calling to the holding centers, and put them there. And from there, they are directly deporting them. They are not allowing even the lawyers there. Uh, Pakistan have not issued a single card to any Afghan refugees after the fall of Kabul. They have not provided them the chance to the registration process. They have just issued them a token card which have no legal standing in the courts. Presently, they are targeting the children first. They are picking up from their madrasas and schools. And as you guys know, that Afghanistan is a living hell for women and girls, transgender, musicians, and other minorities. Obviously, no one chooses to be a refugee by choice. They become refugees due to the circumstances. Due to the absence of refugee law, every government in the past years has treated Afghan refugees like a political football, kicking it around according to their own interest and political gaze. Even few days back, the Pakistan Telecommunication Authority has requested Twitter to suspend my Twitter account because I am advocating for the rights of Afghan refugees. And according to the PTA, this is against Pakistani law. Like advocating for the refugee rights is against the Pakistani law. We and in that tweet, they mentioned to the Twitter where I posted about a guy who was waiting outside the detention center for his wife and a 2-month kid. People are being split apart from their families. They are being humiliated. By being xenophobic to the Afghan identity, Pakistan is opening the door to being racist toward the Pashtun identity. They are picking up the Pashtuns as well. Cases of this we see at Sultanabad every day because we have a team of by JAC Refugee Joint Action Committee for Refugees where we have volunteers and we are trying our best to present there outside the detention 24/7. According to the government, 49 detention centers have been set up with the possibility of more, I think, across Pakistan. And these deportations have not been constructed under a specified law. They are not even allowing the lawyers and media inside the center. We have filed a petition before the Sindh High Court and also before the Supreme Court. In the Sindh High Court, our prayer was to allow the lawyers inside the detention center because according to the Constitution of Pakistan, right to a counsel and right to be heard it's a fundamental right. But according to the division bench of Sindh High Court, they remarked that fundamental rights which are mentioned in the Constitution of Pakistan are only for the Pakistani citizens. Afghan refugees can't claim these fundamental rights. Although we are not ratified the 1951 convention, 2 days back, I and my colleague Samar Abbas is also here in the audience. We visited the Afghan refugee camp. People in the camp complained us and that we are staying in our communities, avoiding work and business due to ongoing police harassment. Many of them are in need of food assistance, and they requested us to please approach UNHCR and SHARP and other organizations. And I and Summer emailed them, the UNHCR and other organization here in Karachi. Although Pakistan is not ratified the 1951 convention, but there are treaties which Pakistan is a signatory body which prohibits Pakistan from forceful deportation, like the Convention Against Torture and Cruel Human Degrading Treatment or Punishment. Pakistan ratified it in 2010. International customary law is non-department principle, international covenant on civil and political rights, and the tri-party agreement with UNHCR, United Nations Commissioner Mandate, 1951 Conventions and its protocol, 1993 Cooperation Agreement with UNHCR, and even the Islamabad High Court quoted all these laws in the judgment of the Rail Azizi case. But presently, when in one of the Sindh court, I presented their judgment before the court for a man, Afghan refugee who was working in the Afghan protection force. I argued before the court that it's a similar case and you can grant him bail, but the court said to me that why you choose Sindh for the refugee status? You are I said that Pakistan have agreement with the UNHCR. As the judge said, that why this refugee not choose Peshawar or Quetta? It was his argument with me. I said, this sir, if he take the refugee status in Pakistan, it is not mentioned in the agreement that he have to take the refugee status in Peshawar or Quetta. They judge dismiss that bail application. Like the judges are very biased, and the state racial profiling of Afghan refugees, and they deeply penetrated among the people. They Most of the people here and the common people here don't want to live with the Afghan refugees. They actually accepted the state narrative. We established joint action committee for refugees, just to aware the people the rights of the refugees, and actually we are just trying to communicate with the community, upon refugees community. So sorry. So the people in the camp, always when I visited there, they showed me a card of, and they told me that in the era of the General Ziaulak, there was a Russian card which gave to them by the, and they are questioning me why we don't have but citizenship right. And according to our law, they can't apply for the birth citizenship right. So that's all. Thank you so much.
Thank you for all this information. So I would like to ask this question that Pakistan has been actually the home or a refuge for many migrants and refugees from Afghanistan in the last 40 years. Even from 1990s when the Soviet invaded Afghanistan, lots of those who opposed the leftist government in Kabul, they were in Peshawar and elsewhere. So at that time, Pakistan was supporting the opposition. I mean, those mujahideens who were in Peshawar. So that's the political side. But if you shed light on what has changed, that Pakistani government is taking this drastic action of purging more than 1 million refugees at once, and if you also maybe have some words on why at this time and what is the reason. So thank you.
Thank you. Actually, this government don't have such mandate um, to make such a policy against Afghan refugees. It's an interim government, but as I mentioned, it the court also mentioned while the judgment, announcing the judgment, that it's a state policy, and the courts are not ready to intervene in it, and the state, like the interim government, has saying that we are not ready to host anymore the Afghan refugees here, and they are claiming that we are only arresting the illegal immigrants and undocumented ones, but in actually they are arresting the documented ones, and arresting those Afghan refugees, and most of the documented Afghan voluntarily leave Afghanistan, leave Pakistan in the recent days. So according to the government, it's a state policy, and they are not ready to host the Afghan refugees anymore.
Oh, okay, thank you. Yes, it's quite a disheartening picture because when you are a refugee in Pakistan, you can go nowhere from Pakistan. Let's say if you are in Turkey, you could cross the border, maybe come to Europe, or maybe if you are in Iran, you had the option to go to Turkey and then to Europe. But if you are in Pakistan, you are stranded there. You cannot go to India because that line of control, Indian police and Indian border police will shoot you. So, and the other side is the the sea, so you cannot go there, and the North China, you cannot go there also. So and that's the problem, that it doesn't attract the international attention as well. In Turkey, when the migrants and refugees wanted to come to Europe, so the European Union and European states, they intervened, and they are actually bribing the Turkey government for stopping them, keeping them there, but they are at least not not deporting them all at once. So that's the curse of being refugee in Pakistan, that you cannot go elsewhere, and you have only one way to go back to Afghanistan, and that's the Taliban illegitimate government, and those who have not the experience of dealing with such situation, and also they do not have the means and mechanisms of receiving, let's say, more than 1 million refugees at once. So, and this all compound the crisis. Being refugee, the problem is that you, wherever you are staying, like 20 years, you are creating your own social relation and social capital there. So you live there, so your social environment is there, and if you just uprooted there from there and then go to back to Afghanistan, they will have there will be a crisis there, because in Afghanistan there are lots of social tensions. One question is that where they should settle in Afghanistan, because there are lots of speculation that it's actually a conspiracy between the Taliban government and the Pakistani government to settle these refugees in the areas which previously they opposed the Taliban, like predominantly in the northern border of Afghanistan, in the central Afghanistan, Hazarajat, and elsewhere where the population were against the Taliban. So it will increase the social tension and domestic tension inside Afghanistan. Another speculation is that it is done because of it. It's a mechanism of pressuring the Taliban government to recognize the border between Afghanistan and Pakistan. Although in his interview with the BBC Pashto Muttaqi, Taliban foreign minister, he did not say that he was pressurized by the Pakistani government, but he talked that there is a mechanism of doing it, and this is that we should ask the people and all, which shows that he might be pressured because of that. But he said that the Pakistanis are not listening to us, and that's the whole. If you are an illegitimate government, so even your earlier supporters also do not listen to you. So now we open the discussion to our listeners. Whoever have any question, please send us a request. We will add. Please keep your question short, and please avoid any irresponsible language. Thank you.